All right. So Ayomide, so I have the floor, right?
Yes, you do, Dr. Eugene.
Okay. So hello, everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks for an awesome event you have put together. A special thanks to, yeah. Okay. So a special thanks to Fadekemi Adebayo, Ayomide Oyetomi. All right. So I wanted to tell our story. So my name is Eugene Ohu from the Lagos Business School. I'm an associate professor at the Lagos Business School. And I've been working with virtual reality since 2017. And I thought that by telling my story, there could be something useful to. I'm sorry, Ayumide. I don't know why I'm having an echo. I'm hearing my, myself.
Um, you're echoing. It might be because you have another tab open. So maybe you want to mute the stage there.
I have only one open.
Or it might also be the headphones, maybe. I'm not sure.
Let me just see. How is it now? Oh, yes, you're right. That was my fault. Sorry, I had another tab open. You can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, apologies for that, everyone. So my name is Eugene Ohu. I'm an associate professor at the Lagos Business School. I said I've been working with virtual reality since 2017. And then I thought that by telling our story, the story of our lab, which is the virtual human-computer interaction lab, there could be some learning for, anyone, So think of me as an end user. So hopefully, in also talking about the different technologies we have used and the different people that we have dealt with, there might be lessons for people who are looking for, I don't know, looking to make a livelihood from the metaverse. For example, people like Meta are planning to make a livelihood from the metaverse. And on that note, I would like to give a shout out to them as well because there are two organizations I would like to credit for giving our lab wings to fly, so to speak. The first one is the Templeton World Charity Foundation, a charity based in Bahamas, which is focused on development of character. And you will see how they tie into our work. And then the other one is Meta, formerly Facebook. Okay, so as a kind of background, you know that there is now a race to own the metaverse. I wasn't very enthusiastic about using that term until recently. I, okay, yeah, because I don't like fads. But well, extended reality is one fad that we have to get used to, whether we like it or not. If you have the likes of Meta spending $1 billion monthly, and there's a report that in 2022 they spent $13.7 billion. Okay, and then also another kind of background, if you like, was with the recent announcement of the Apple Vision Pro. I was very excited about the Apple Vision Pro, not because I expected anything new, because I think there's still a lot of improvement that need to happen in that space, but also because I wanted to see how Apple would sell this technology. And in selling this technology, it gives us an insight about the possibilities of this technology. Meta describes the metaverse as the future of connection, and you credit them for being far-sighted in all this. Okay, so we'll talk a bit more about that. So I'm a member of the editorial advisory board of a new Journal of Medical Extended Reality. So giving you an idea that there are also medical applications for extended reality. So when we say extended reality, we are referring to virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. And my interest is in human-computer interaction. Okay, so how people interact with technology on the one hand, how to use technology, deploy it for good, but also studying the effects of the use of technology on people. So I come from a very diverse background. I studied pharmacy at first. I worked in technology, and I worked as a journalist as well. So all of them, if you like, the confluence is in this human-computer interaction where I'm playing with psychology, technology, and communication. I'm currently exploring use of virtual reality for learning and behavior modification. I mean, one current application which I'll talk a bit with the little time I have is the use of perspective taking towards increasing empathy and compassion in people. One of my hobbies, I have several. I enjoy, it's been a rainy day in Lagos today, so I enjoy running on rainy days. I like photography, pencil sketching, and good food. I think one of the reasons I run is so that I can eat. Anyway, so I also would like to introduce some of the people who have worked with me and who are working with me. So to the left, because that also shows the diversity of the different knowledge areas that have been involved in the VRO game that we have been working on since 2020. In the photograph bottom left, you have Adeola here, the psychologist, and then Cynthia is a sociologist, Ikeola communication, and Morenike another psychologist. Now, the first three are doing their PhD right now, and then the fourth one is doing a master's. Because one of the things that we do at the Lagos Business School in taking people as research assistants is also to prepare them for a funded graduate program abroad. So there's a new team. Incidentally, both the past and the present, they're all ladies. But what matters is their brain, right? So in the group on the right, you have the current team. The one who is raising the hand, that's our favorite pose, is is Tommy, our research administrator. And then our game developer, we have an in-house game developer, Ada, the one to the right of Tommy. And then you have our communications expert. Um, and then you have another psychologist. Okay. All right. Now, just a bit of a background to what we have. Thanks to Lagos Business School, who have been very accommodating of our interest, but also thanks to the funders, we have what I think is a very well equipped laboratory. Okay. I mean, at the beginning, I bought this HTC Vive here with my money, and then the university met me halfway because after buying this, I found then that there was no computer, as many computers as we have at the Lagos Business School, powerful enough to run this. And then the university helped me with a computer to buy a first Alienware laptop. So now we have many devices, and then we have this is the Meta Quest 2. Okay, so we have about 33 of these. Because many of the things we have people visiting the lab, and also sometimes we go to schools for VR experiences. And then on the left here is the Oculus Rift. This is old. Okay, so the two that I bought in 2017 were the Rift and the HTC Vive. But then later on, we also acquired the HTC Vive Pro I. This is on the left. The reason I got this, there's no time to talk about it, but because it has eye tracking features, which was one of the things I wanted to explore in research. And then the Valve Index is on the right, and then the computers we use are the Alienware. So that's an Alienware desktop there. And then you can create VR experiences either by modeling the avatars from scratch, as well as I will explain, or you can decide to go the route of 360-degree video, which is why we have the Insta360 Pro 2 here. This is a 360 camera, and then we also have a special audio device as well. And then this is our motion capture suit, the mocap. This is the Xsense, owned by a company called Movella. So one of the things that we like to say in the lab is that virtual reality allows you to do dangerous things safely and expensive things cheaply. I like this phrase because it encapsulates all the possibilities. So I'm sure you're familiar with the difference between virtual reality, where you create computer generated experiences or environments or objects, compared with so where completely the experience is completely virtual, but in augmented reality, where you overlay digital objects on the real environment. Okay, so just think of just think of anything you would like to do. For example, when we were in secondary school, we were told that we could not or we should not put water in hydrochloric acid, or I don't know if it's the other way around, because there's going to be an explosion. We never got to try it, but VR would allow you try it. So what's the worst that can happen? Well, you take off the headset, and then you're still there, and then you can go to different places. And then also, apart from what I'm going to explain, using VR for empathy and compassion, we're also using it for mental health interventions as well. Mental health interventions. We're also studying in the lab, because it's a research lab. We're also studying in the lab how the different environmental factors that affect your experience in VR, environmental factors that affect immersion, environmental factors that affect enjoyment, and things like that. And then we're also studying even gender role perceptions in VR. For example, I told you about some of the research assistants who worked here and who are now doing their PhDs. One of them, Adeola, is using virtual reality to study how to use virtual reality to confront criminals with their victims or the impact of their crimes, with the idea of reducing recidivism, which means reducing their return to crime. While another one in sociology is studying the use of VR, using VR to study role taking and in socialization. So really, there's so many things you can do with it. So one of the things we're doing now is using it to increase empathy and compassion. So let me see how I can explain that. So, when you get into virtual reality, you are transported, okay? You are transported into another environment. Although you know that you are in a virtual environment, the experience is nevertheless real. There's this VR experience we give to people when they come to our lab for the first time. We don't give them games. We have games, if you like shooting games, we have lots of it. But one of the first things we give to people is not games, for two reasons. One, we don't want to give the impression that virtual reality is synonymous with gaming. I think that would be impoverishing a very powerful tool. And then the second thing, wanted them to experience VR's power for themselves. So there's this experience called the Richie's Plank. So in Richie's Plank, what's the experience? You put on the headset and you find yourself at the door of an elevator. And then you get into the elevator, and then there are several buttons there, and you push one button, and then you hear the sound of the elevator. You know you're in VR, right? You know you are in our lab. You hear the sound of the elevator, then the elevator begins to take you to the top floor. And you get to the top floor of the building, the elevator door open, king, and what do you see? There is a piece of plank sticking out of the door of the elevator, hanging over nothing. What's the idea? We get it to walk to the end of the elevator. Now, believe it or not, we have had people crawl on the floor physically there in the lab. You have people say, but I know it's not real. I know I'm in the lab. They call the people, Eugene, you're here. I know, yes, 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 it's not real. So walk. No, I can't do it. Get me out of it. That's the power of VR. You know it's not real, and yet the effect is real. So we started to think, in a country like Nigeria with different ethnic groups, um, it's very easy to have stereotypical ideas about other ethnic groups. Suppose I'm Yoruba, and I may have different stereotypical thoughts about Hausas that may lead to discrimination, or thinking about Igbos, because I don't put myself in their shoes. So we're not asking ourselves, what if I can embody, like a Yoruba person can embody an Hausa person in VR, and in VR suffer discrimination as that Hausa person? So in the first person experience of discrimination, will that change my perception? Will that change my attitude? Will that likely increase my empathy towards that person. So that's what we're working on. So that's the idea of this study. And that has been a very interesting learning experience for us. Okay. I mean, it's been a school for me personally and for all of my colleagues. Okay. So this is the development pipeline that we have followed. We start with storyboarding. Okay. 2D storyboarding, just like you have the comic. Another thing to mention here is that, I mean, people have often asked me what kind of skills are needed in VR. My reply has always been that the same skills that you need outside the metaverse are the same skills that the metaverse needs. Okay. If you're a domain expertise is key. Okay. For example, you are deploying VR, for instance, for to reduce stigma towards depression. You need a psychiatrist or you need a psychologist. You need domain experts. You're using VR to teach chemistry, for example, to recreate, to have a dry chemistry lab. You need a chemist. So domain expertise. So all of the skill sets. If you're an artist, we need you. You write stories, we have needed all these people. So 2D storyboarding, and then second stage is writing a story script, or you can actually start with number two, write a script. Now, after writing the story, we also have what we call the game design document. And here we have had a challenge because, if you like, the game we are developing is a serious game, right? But you also want it to be entertaining. Otherwise, the adolescents we're working with 13 to 20 years old, they will not be interested in it. So how can I make a serious game that is also entertaining? So game design is needed as well, like introducing challenges, things that will give them points, and everything has been done in house. And then we have a collaborator at Maris College. Kat has been writing stories because she's been doing games, but not in VR. So she was also very helpful here. And then we'll have character development. Later, I'll talk about some challenges. I know I don't have much time. I have the time here, 12 minutes. Character development, and then also voiceover recording. All of these we did in house. We had to do animations, game development. Okay, so we have two projects going on right now. For one of them, we're using Unity 3D, and then for the other, we're using Unreal Engine. Okay, this- yeah. So to this, so I mean, many times for the stories, we have to go to the field because we don't try not to work in a vacuum. For example, these are students in a school in Kenya. We have to talk with these students to also understand the kind of discriminations that they go through, and we involve them in the story creation. So ideas from them also we've fed the story we developed eventually. Of course, all of you developers are familiar with the T pose, right? When I talk about the challenges, I'll come back to this. Okay, character development, and then the voiceover. So that's a picture of the lab. We have two sections in our lab. So, as you can imagine, in a lab like this, open space is premium because that's where we need it for the gameplay. And then anything else to say here in particular? I took some notes. The other thing I would have liked to say here in the character development is that we wanted our VR game to be African. Okay, we wanted it to be African. We had a lot of debate in house how real to make our characters. Later, I will show you the one of the end results. I mean, you have some people who say that if the character is so real, the players might freak out. But if the experience we're trying to create is that you put yourself in the position physically or really in the shoes of the another person, we opted to go for as real as possible African skin tones. Okay, and that also meant we needed to get our texturing right. So we started with reference pictures. We started with reference pictures, skin texture. Okay, I'll talk a bit more about this when I start talking about some of the challenges, and then we can go a little bit technical. And then the voiceover recording, and then we had volunteers. So these are people from different parts of Lagos who were kind enough to come to our lab to lend us their voices. Okay, so they will all be acknowledged anyway. So we recorded all the voices in house. So there was a lot of acting, and then now we work with Audacity. So I mean, I didn't want to pay license for Adobe. Okay, so open source, as many open source software as we can. For the 3D development, we work with Blender. So we only pay when we have to pay. Another thing that is also very good to mention here, and I'm grateful, is that many of these software companies have educational license. So sometimes you ask for it and it's available, and you get it. Okay. And then animations. So we have tried different types of motion suits. We tried people trying to do the animations by hand. It didn't work. It didn't work because you have people who tell you that they can do it, but at the end, they couldn't. So the solution, we started with the Rococo motion capture suit. Now, Rococo motion capture suit is very susceptible to metal. So when there's a metal around it, there's a lot of skew. So it didn't work too well. But thanks to my brother, who runs a VRO lab in another country, who learnt that first. But eventually, when we got more resources, we got the Essence suit. So this is awesome. This is fantastic. XSENS. And then game development. So this is a view of some of the villages in our yet to be released game. Okay, so I can't. I mean, you have a preview there. All right. So very quickly, some of the yes, we say challenges, right? Not problems. 3D modeling. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this 3D modeling, character rigging, animation, and then clothes. And Fadekemi, you know that that's a student from the Pan Atlantic University doing internship with us. Fei is super at clothes making, so you can see him there. So this story is not about Fei, eh? But he's doing awesome work. Now this 3D modeling took us time. This took us time. Okay. Now, at the beginning, I didn't have money to spend, so I went to freelance sites looking for freelance workers, and then I found a guy on Guru.com. I found a guy on Guru.com from Barcelona who created the first characters for us. But for a long time, he couldn't get the rigging. Okay, so you know that you have to rig the characters, right? To put the bones, because later on you need that for the animation. He couldn't get the rigging. Okay, so neither the body rigging nor the facial rigging, because we wanted to animate the body and as well the face. So this took us a long time. Eventually, also on the same guru.com, because I've been using guru.com for my tech business long before now. Also on the same guru.com, we found a Nigerian who lives at Ibadan, who was the one who solved the problem for us. So a Spaniard spent 1 year, nice guy, but it just didn't work. So there's a guy in Ibadan who did it for us. Okay, so he was able to finish the body rigging and then the facial rigging. And then, yeah, so that was the 3D modeling. So we had reference pictures that we worked with. Uh, we were not afraid, not also because were trying to save money. We were not afraid to try people who knew very little. But once you have a learning spirit, there's a lot on YouTube. Okay, so if we have time, you say you don't know this, but you can find out how to do it. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to speed up now because I see by my time I have just 5 minutes. All right, so that's 3D modeling, and then the character rigging. Maybe here just to talk about the software we use, the pipeline from 3D modeling to the game engine. So most of our 3D modeling is done with Blender, and then the rigging with Blender, and then um, there is a company called Realution that creates this iClone. Okay, so at the beginning, when iClone was in version 7, when you import an FBS file from outside iClone, you take it through the 3D exchanger, and it's in the 3D exchanger that you map the rigged, okay, you map the bone. So the idea of mapping is to get the computer to recognize that the components, this structure, this is the right hand, this is the left hand. After the mapping, that's also where we map the face. And so that character is ready to be taken to iClone 7, okay, where you apply your animation, the animation that we created using the motion capture suite. But then with iClone 8, there is no need for the 3D exchanger. Okay, so now rather you use a character creator 4 to do the mapping and then take it to iClone 8. So that's a pipeline we have worked with. There are probably some better ones, but that's what we do, and then eventually take it to Unity or take it to Unreal Engine. And then another thing to mention here also, I think when talking about the animation, this X-Sense, the one you have on the right, many of the DC comics and Marvel movies have been made with this. It costs $5,000 for one suit. We have two. I don't know why we have two, because I was thinking of some of these games that people play, 1 1 2 2. Okay, so we have had some of these in our games, right? So if you have just one suit, you have to do it in this direction, go to the other direction. But if you have two people wearing the two suits, you can both act at the same time. Now, of course, but then the license to convert the Essence files, which come with .mvn, to convert it to FBX is not free. Okay, so if you subscribe to their cloud service, you pay about $200 a month. But if you want to use the FBX license, you pay how are we doing it now? So my brother, again to the rescue, in his university, he has a license. So I hope Excellence, you're not listening. If you are listening, that's your problem. When we, after creating it, we send the files to him, and then he helps us to convert it to FBX. So we don't have $30,000 for the software, but we have the suit. All right, so this is a kind of realism that we have been going for. We've been going for. So hopefully at the end of this month, our game will be ready. Yeah. Anyway, so the time will not permit me to also talk about some of the challenges with clothing. We want the clothes to flow. Okay, so some of you who are experts, you want the clothes to flow. Okay, you want the character to move for the clothes to flow. Clo 3D will do that for you. But uh, how can I use Clo 3D without repeating animations for every single movement? Because from what I heard from the experts in Clo 3D, we have very complex motions. We have a whole activity in a classroom. It means that you have to create an animation for each closed movement to match the movement of the body. So what we're doing right now is weight painting. Weight painting has solved it for us. Ah, somebody works for Excellence. Good for you. All right. I think I'm going to leave it here. The last thing I wanted to say, I have 1 minute left, is that I'm also very, very conscious that Nigeria is a very talented country. So, but also people need to be given opportunities. There are so many enthusiasts, there's so many VR, XR enthusiasts. So one of the things we did in 2020 was to organize a boot camp. Okay, so we got some people to train, several people. The faces there are the icons are very minute. So some of the people had their, I'm happy to say, happy for them, had their first great start in VR or AR from this boot camp. All right, so I hope I didn't talk too fast. I was trying to just use my 30 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Happy to take questions and comments. Thanks.
Nah, it was really good. Thank you, Dr. Eugene. This was very informative. There are no questions right now in the chat, just a lot of people sharing excitement. But if you have any questions, Dr. Eugene is available. You can just send him a direct message. Yeah, he's available like throughout the day, and he will get to you when he can. But thank you so much, Dr. Eugene. We're
Fantastic.
very grateful to have you.
My
This
pleasure,
was
everybody.
really good. Thank you so much.
All right. Have fun, everyone. See you around.
All right, bye.
Bye.